Well, Josh, the only way to kill mummies now is divide and conquer. You with me?
Sure. So, on the DVD cover of The Mummy, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, you might see it says right here, the best in the series, Roger Ebert. Would you agree, Chris? The best in the series?
No.
There.
Hey, welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to Crosscut. I'm your co-host, Chris.
And I'm your more handsome co-host, Joshua.
Wow, Joshua. Anyway,
I'm your more handsome co-host, Josh O'Connell, and this is the ugly motherfucker mummy, Imhotep.
wow.
I'm
Okay,
on it tonight, Chris. You better be on your A
I
game.
see how that is. Okay. Well, this week, continuing the trilogy for Brendan Fraser's Mummies, we're going with The Mummy, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. So, yeah, this one takes place in China instead of Egypt this time, uh, which I think is ridiculous, but that's just me because I think
Okay,
it's
why do you think it's ridiculous? Because I have a theory or something I want to talk about, but I want you to talk about why you think it's ridiculous that it's set in China.
I think it's more because the first two happen to have the first two were in Egypt, and the the first thing you think of a mummy is an Egyptian mummy, even though there's mummies all over the world. You know, I know that there's in Europe, there's in Asia, everywhere. But I don't know, maybe because it's completely different from the other two movies. You know,
Okay, so I have a theory of why I think this movie's set in China, and I
okay,
was thinking about it during. So this movie came out in 2008.
right.
Now, in 2008, there was a shift going on in the film industry. So there's actually a really great book out there for people that should check it out if you're really interested in film business, film news. It's called Sleepless in Hollywood. And what this book talks about is how the industry started changing around this time. And it started becoming about these pre-sold movies and these big franchises instead of, so how it used to be where actors used to sell the movies around this time is when it started to become like the idea, and that's something that translates today. So one of the biggest things they talk about is the importance of the Chinese market. And to this day, China is actually the biggest international market for these like major studios.
Oh
That's
yeah.
where they make a lot of their money worldwide. So I think the reason why this movie is set in China was because of the Chinese market, which is something that actually started happening around this time. And then we started seeing movies specifically set in China, but had like the American actors in it. Like, do you remember that movie with Matt Damon called The Great Wall?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, like, that was a movie specifically like geared towards like the Chinese audience, even though it had an American actor in it.
Right,
So, I
right.
think the reason why this movie is set in China was because of the Chinese market and how big they are. So that's just my theory, but I
Okay.
think that is a
That's
reason why they went that way.
okay. That's interesting. That's interesting. I wouldn't have thought about that. I wouldn't have
Yeah,
thought about that.
it's a really good book. You should check it out. It came out in 2014, which obviously that was like you remember that was right when we graduated, and
Hmm.
that was like streaming was just starting to hit.
Just started.
But also, yeah, like film distribution and marketing also was changing a lot as well. And yeah, like the Chinese market is like it's huge, it's important. Funny enough, right
Okay.
before I was on, I was watching a video about the whole tariff situation and how
Yeah.
China might actually ban American movies. So it's very fascinating and how much of an impact that would have on the American studios if China were to take on like our movies. So it more impacts like the major movies, but anyways.
Yeah, I mean, and in general, it's gonna screw up everything. But yes, related to the film industry, it's gonna hurt. Anyway,
So I
back to the
think I
movie.
so th yeah, so back to the movie. So I'd never seen this movie
Okay.
before. Well, I'd seen like parts of it. So funny enough, I showed the DVD, which I've had this DVD since 2008, and I have never watched it. I never opened it. My mom got this for me for a Christmas gift in 2008 because like our family was a big fan of the franchise. My mom
Right.
loves the first two movies, so when this one came out, we didn't see it in theaters. It just kind of came and went.
Mhm.
And this movie came out the week after The Dark Knight, so it just got, I don't think a lot of people went and saw this movie.
No, no, it was
I
a
mean,
tough.
it still made money. Funny enough, it made about 400 million worldwide at the box office, so people did go see the movie. I just was not one of them. But my mom got this on DVD for me for Christmas, and I had this weird memory
Hmm.
of the power going out one day, like around that time, and we had one of those little portable DVD players that you could,
Uh,
play. So I think
yeah.
we were like she was watching the movie, but I was like kind of not paying attention the first 15 minutes, and then I just kind of like left the room or something. So that was my only experience ever with this movie, and I never was really interested in ever checking it out. I just never really cared. But when the opportunity came up for the show, I was like, this might be the time to actually
Right.
once and for
Actually
all
watch
watch
it.
the movie once and for never again.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. I mean, I remember, I think, renting this movie. Actually, I remember renting this movie. I was like, oh, it's the third Mummy. Cool. And did not think anything of it. I just knew, well, okay, Jet Li's in it. Cool. Why?
Well, Jet Li is kind of in it.
I
That's one of my notes. So funny enough, I was watching the movie and I'm like, okay, Jet Li's in the beginning. First off,
mean,
what happened? Biggest question in the movie: what happened to his porn mustache? Just disappeared.
well, no, it made sense because when he had the mustache, he was already growing old. There wasn't a story. So when he jumped into uh the eternal immortalizing pool of Shangri-La, he became back to his prime self, which was the one without the beard and the long hair and whatnot.
That's real nice, Chris. That's real nice. I just think that Jet Li was only there for a certain amount of time, and they maybe had to have him
Must-
come back for reshoots, and he had the porn mustache, and now he didn't. Anyways, my whole point is if you're just going to do the porn mustache, keep it. If you're not going to do it, then just don't do it. So Jet Li
And
is not really in this movie. He's in the beginning when they kind of introduce the
in the
story,
end,
and then he's in the end. But throughout the movie, you see just this kind of like CGI glop monster
right.
looking guy.
Yeah.
And I was reading that I guess Jet Li himself was not available for most of this movie. So that's why you see that specific form of him throughout most of the movie.
No, I mean it works too. Like he's the cursed mummy, cursed emperor.
But it's a funny use of a marketing tool because a lot of like no budget movies will get like that one name actor in it and they'll market the hell out of him. Like remember all those like shitty Bruce Willis direct to
Oh,
DVD movies
yeah,
that came
yeah.
out, but he'll only be in like one scene, but they're just doing it so they can sell the movie. And I think that's why they did this. Is like, hey, let's just get Jet Li. We can put his name on the poster. This movie will sell overseas.
True, because even in the cover, the cover of the movie, he's right there,
He's right here. Yeah,
and you
he's the
assume,
second name. Yeah,
yeah,
he's the second name.
yeah. I mean, you assume he's gonna be for the most of the movie, like actually see his face, and it is a total letdown, you know. And I don't know, it's just it took way too long in the beginning to introduce everything. It felt awkward in the beginning between Rick and Evie. Like again, yes, they should have had Rachel Weisz come back for it. Not,
Well, do you know the story of why she didn't really
I
come
don't
back for
remember
this?
it.
Anyways, it has to do with the time gap, which is one of my notes. So this movie takes place in 1946. It takes place
Mhm.
13 years after The Mummy Returns, which for me is way too long of a time gap. Like, why do they jump that far ahead? And I have a thought about that. It's one of my notes. So this movie takes place right after World War II ends,
Right.
and I think that just was like part of the story that they didn't want to compromise on. And because that's part of the story, that's why they had to have such a big time gap. That's why Alex is 21 years old in this
Mhm.
movie. He's really old compared to in The Mummy Returns.
When she was like
Now,
what, 7?
he's like 6 or 7, right?
Right.
So one of the reasons, well, this was never actually verified, but like the theory or the rumor that you read online is that the reason Rachel Weisz didn't want to come back for this is because she didn't want to play the mother to a 21-year-old, which at the time she would have only been 37 when making the movie. So I understand that, and I think Alex is too old in this movie. Like he's just too old.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, I didn't like the actor either.
I don't either.
I will say Visually, he looked like the kid from Mummy Returns. Like I can see why they cast him visually because I thought
I mean,
he
there's
looked
some
pretty similar.
resemblance, yes, but
But and
mm,
I texted you this. This is like the one thing I texted you. That accent. What the hell?
it's like a like transatlantic Brooklyn
That's what I
American
said
whatever.
Brooklyn. Like you I texted you and I was like, what is going on with this accent? Like how did he go from like Brooklyn to from British to this
The
like Brooklyn guy like being in like a
mhm.
Scorsese movie? It made no sense. And had the comment like, well, yeah, he tries to do it like his dad. He's nothing like his father's accent in this
No,
movie.
that's for
He's
sure.
like
No,
he's like a wannabe like 1930s gangster. I'm like, where did this come
that's
from?
what I'm saying. It sounded like a transatlantic thing going on.
And it would made
And
sense if like in the time gap in between, like, oh, I went back to America. I was living in New York City and yeah, pizza and all that stuff. But no, like he's been
true,
in
but no,
China and
I know. He's yeah. The accent, he probably the actor couldn't do an accent that was normal. And I always think like, why is he in China of all places, right?
well,
Why
plot
is
convenience.
what?
I said plot convenience.
Oh, yeah. But I'm thinking like, what if they wanted to push Alex away from all the mummy stuff, all the archaeological stuff to protect him, like just go far away, go see your uncle in China. That's what I'm thinking, you know. And Jonathan just wanted to get away from from anything mummy, so he decided, oh, let me just go to China and set up a club, which is funny, the name Imhotep's.
Yeah. Okay, so I have, before we get back to more things I didn't like about this movie, there's some things I like.
Okay.
This movie is not great. Um, I think this movie could have used a lot more humor in it to make it more entertaining. I think
More
the
action
beginning
than
is
it sounds.
the beginning is very just not engaging. I don't
It's
know. And just
dull.
yeah, I wasn't really interested. I like seeing Michelle Yeoh in this movie, which is cool. Which actually I don't know if you know this, but she won an Oscar with the same year that Brendan Fraser won an Oscar.
Oh
Um,
yeah, that's right. The
they're in
whale
this
and
Everything Everywhere All at Once.
yeah,
So
that one.
I thought that was kind of cool. I noticed that throughout the movie. I was like, hey, so wait a second, they won Oscars at the same time. So they probably had the funny little comment like, hey, remember that shitty Mummy movie we did like 15 years ago? Anyways, back to things I did like. I like the nods to the first two movies. So
Yeah,
that was one of them. The name of the club was Imhotep or
Imhotep. Yeah.
Imhotep's. So I thought that was funny. Nice little nod. When we first see Evie, she's doing her kind of book reading, and
Mommy
they
the
have the
Mummy
posters for the
Returns.
Mummy Returns. Like I like that. Like okay,
Yeah,
that's fun. Those little nods there. So yeah, just having little nods and little references throughout. I mean, it would have been cool to have more visually on screen of the first two movies, but
I know, but it's a complete different setting. It's a different plot. It is just like you say. They just mention it. Even when Rick is talking to Alex, and like, I've put more mummies down than in my time. You put the same mummy down once. That yeah, same mummy twice.
well, speaking of nods to the first two movies, I one of my other ones was Rick and Jonathan's chemistry, which was great,
Oh
just to
yeah,
see those two together again.
yeah.
I feel like Jonathan wasn't in this movie that much. Like he kind of shows up later, and then
Well,
there's like even like during one action scene, I'm like, "Where's Jonathan?" He just kind of like
well,
disappeared.
see, I think he actually is in most of the movie. He just pops out. He pops up in various different scenes. Like as soon as they get to China, of course, that's when you really see him. And like again, he's just popping up everywhere. And, like even when they're fighting the army, he's just on the plane with Mad Dog McGuire, just suddenly
Hmm.
just doing everything. I'm like, okay, he's just there. He's just
He
there.
bombed the hell out of those one one
That
people
was a
driving the
cool
Jeep.
shot. I was like, talk
And
about
how the hell did that
aim.
one guy survive? There's no way you would survive that.
And the other one survived too. The other like
Though the girl with the scar in her eye, she was cute, by
yeah,
the way.
I think they both survived that. And then I do like the action though. I do
The
like
action was it was fine. The street chase through Shanghai was good
that
with
was
the
good.
fireworks going off and that big explosion. Like that
Yeah,
was good.
yeah.
I thought the setting of the what was it, the mountains or whatever, when they're
And
trying to blow up the thing. I thought that was really boring. I did not like that. I did not like that whole set piece. I just visually I just wasn't didn't like it. I thought the Yetis were just really dumb,
they were supposed to be for the comic relief thing, like the field goal, whatever.
but that's not funny.
They were trying to be funny. I didn't really care much for the Yeti, but uh, the the only I think the only part I liked about that when in the snow is when uh, Rick and Alex's dynamic about guns. Like that was funny. That was fun between like a father-son thing, but that's
It was all right. I just didn't like the family, the actors, man. They did not feel like a family. It just didn't work.
no,
And
it didn't.
no disrespect to Maria Bello. I've seen her in plenty of other things. She's a really good actress. She
It
she just
wasn't
wasn't the
easy.
no, she just wasn't cast right. Like I can understand if Rachel Weisz didn't want to be in this movie. I totally get it. They probably could have found a better replacement. I was thinking of other people in my head.
I don't know.
Honestly,
It's because they also just they changed her character.
I mean she's trying to do the accent. It didn't feel normal. She
Not just the
tried to be
accent, but
funny. It
like
didn't work.
it didn't feel like Evie,
It just
the
felt
character
very
itself.
disengaged from the previous two movies, and it just wasn't there. That's what makes those first two movies work so well was Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz's chemistry together. You believed it.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
without that, it just, yeah, there's just like, there were some family scenes in this one, and I'm just like, man, it just falls so flat.
Yeah, it didn't work at all. It
So I
didn't.
guess, I guess, I guess we're back on the things we don't like again. Um, Actually, you know what? I want to talk about one more thing that I did like that I thought they
Okay.
could have done a better job with, but I like the idea. So when we first see Rick, he's kind of like older man Rick, and he's doing his fly
Mhm.
fishing, which I thought was cool. And like I like the idea of just seeing, the older guy, and he's kind of
Mhm.
more in the quiet life. I thought there could have been more there with that whole thing. It seemed like it happened so fast. I thought there could have
It
been just
did.
more of like him in his like quieter days and and then getting back into it. But I did like that that scene where he's like fly fishing and he's shooting the fish and everything.
That was fun. That was Rick.
I mean, Brendan Fraser was Brendan Fraser in this movie, which,
Yeah.
thank
It,
thank God for that. That was one of the few saving graces as far
I would
as
say so.
a
That
mummy
yeah.
movie.
And
Uh,
Jonathan too. Like he kept his character.
I'm,
No,
as far as the movie, yes, it's those two that reminded you that it was like if it wasn't for them, like you'd just
yeah,
be watching some generic action movie.
pretty much. Pretty much. There's so many different things, but I do like another nod in a way of where Alex has his like older companion, I guess, which was the professor in the beginning. It's kind of like Rick and Wilson from the first movie, the pilot.
You mean Wilson was the guy in this movie?
Oh, good,
You're
same
talking you're,
same
you're
name.
talking about Winston.
Winston. Yeah, it's the same kind of thing. Like Rick had Winston, and the second one he had Iggy,
Izzy.
Izzy, and then yeah, like Alex has his Wilson kind of thing. I think it wasn't exactly the same, the whole betrayal thing, but I don't know. They tried to make Alex a lot like Rick.
Well, yeah, it almost seemed like at times I almost had that thought of like, are they trying to like make him the replacement of like, hey, he's going to take over the franchise moving
Uh,
forward. But I also read that I guess there was an idea from the director to potentially kill off Brendan Fraser's character.
that would never have worked. I don't think so. It's like it's like
I
they're
mean, it wouldn't have mattered because the movie sucked anyway, so
true. Yeah.
whatever.
And it's like at the very end when Jonathan has the diamond and he wants to go somewhere for where there's no mummies, Peru.
Ciao, Shanghai. Peru, here I come.
Actually, that made me laugh. That last text of the where it said,
Soon
um,
after there were mummies found in Peru.
I audibly laughed at that part. Like that got me. I was like, okay, that's pretty funny. And I guess that was there apparently was going to be a fourth movie that
In
they were under
Peru.
contract for. Well, it was going to be called Rise of the Aztecs, and um, I guess there was an idea, and it just never
That
materialized.
is like so damn inaccurate too.
Yeah, well, that was the whole thing. So read the trivia, Chris. Make sure you're reading trivia when you actually watch the
Okay,
movie,
fine,
so you can
fine,
bring
fine,
more insight. Is
fine.
that the movie would have been set in Mexico, even though he talks about Peru.
Ah, okay, never mind.
So another one of my notes for this movie felt like the most Indiana Jones of the three,
I
didn't it?
was thinking that too. It did feel more like Indiana Jones.
Yeah, with like the booby traps and like the
Hmm.
flying the plane, or even just
Hmm.
set in China. Like I got some Temple of Doom vibes as well.
Yeah, and it's almost like Kingdom of the Crystal Skull when he's with his son.
Hmm.
That's
Right.
what it
Which
felt like.
actually, that's funny. That came out the same year, so that's interesting.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It just felt the most indie. Like obviously, like the first two, the Mummy movies.
Hmm.
It's that action adventure Indiana Jones. You know, the lead star with his quips and his one-liners. But
But
this one just felt the most of it with the settings and everything.
and I don't know why I also never liked the chemistry between Alex and Lynn. I was like, eh.
I mean, she was kind of dull as well. Like her acting
She
wasn't
was.
was
Her
wasn't
mother
good.
had more charm.
Yeah. I did realize pretty early on, I was like, oh yeah, there's something about her. Like she can't die. She's a little spider monkey in the beginning, like
Oh
kind of
yeah.
running around.
No, yeah. Yeah, exactly. She's got all those moves and everything. And then when she gets shot, it's like, oh, he missed. Like, no, he
Right.
did not.
Like
You
bitch, she got
killed
shot in the
yourself.
chest. Like I thought she was wearing like a bulletproof vest at first. I thought she was
No,
gonna do like a
no.
reveal, like, oh yeah, I'm protected. But then I was like, yeah, no, something's going on with her. So
Yeah, because it's just out of nowhere, it's like, oh, no, he missed. He missed. That clearly hit you. I mean, come on.
yeah. So it was also just a very forced
Yes.
little love story there that they were trying to set that up and it didn't really work. It was kind of an abrupt jump from when they defeat Jet Li to like the club scene. It just kind of had this weird like something was cut out feeling to it. Like it just kind of like just like was very abrupt for me when it went right to the club scene.
Yeah,
And that was
exactly.
it. Like
Like it was
that's
a
where the movie
cop-out
wraps
ending. They
up.
just wanted okay, happy ending. There you go. It is very abrupt. It is.
So speaking of the ending with the Jet Li fight, that brings me back to a comment I made last week's episode about I guess there was a potential idea of bringing Imhotep back to help them defeat him in the end. And man, that would have been a saving grace of this movie. Just to see like a familiar face like that at the end, and it would have been cool to see him and Rick O'Connell team up to defeat them. It would have made no sense. Like there would have been no
No.
time to go back
Back
to
to
Egypt
Egypt.
and
Just dig him up and kill him.
whatever, but it would have been cool if they somehow made that happen. You know, all these like mummy movies, it just made me think, there's always a character trying to be immortal, trying to take
Yeah.
over the world.
Yeah.
They should make like one big like Avengers Endgame like movie where they
All the
all become
immortals.
immortal and they're all just fighting each other, like Scorpion King, Emotep, uh Dragon Emperor guy, like they're all just which did he even have a name? Because in the credits he's just called Emperor.
I think they only call him an emperor. Yeah.
Like that's such bad writing. Like give him some like actual backstory.
There was no
Like at least like with
backstory.
Imhotep, you like in the first Mummy, like you okay, like it's a romance, like you get that, you can
No,
understand
he actually
he was
has a
doing this for
backstory.
love. Yeah, and this one is just like he just wants power.
Yeah, pretty much. It was like they could have given more backstory for sure, but his backstory was literally just at his prime, not how he became emperor. Like, no, he's just there. He's power hungry.
Yeah.
That's it.
So one of my last notes here, and I'm going to ask you a question. I want to kind of see if I can set you up on this. So this is my last note. When you think the Mummy, just think of the Mummy. What do you think as far as genre? Go back to like the old days.
The first thing I think of is adventure.
I'm not talking about the 1999. I'm talking like old Mummy,
Oh, 1930s.
1930s Mummy. What do you think comes to mind back then, like genre-wise?
Adventure. horror.
There you go. That's what I was looking for. Horror, right?
Yeah.
Now, in the Stephen Sommers two Mummy movies from 99 and
Mhm.
2001, would you not agree that those two movies do a good job at both of those things?
Yes.
Does this movie do a good job at those things?
No.
This movie had no horror elements at all.
No, it's just straight up action.
Yeah, this there was another opportunity there that was lagging for, and I think that maybe just goes to the director of this movie, Rob Cohen. I'm not sure if you're familiar with his work, but he's kind of a director for hire guy. He's done movies like the first Fast and Furious, and if you look at his IMDb, that's some pretty other shitty movies. But I just feel like there could have been better opportunities for more humor
Yeah.
and more horror elements, and this movie would have at least worked better.
See, if I know they were trying to do more supernatural thing with the whole five elements thing, but they could have gone a lot darker with that, but they didn't. They kept it action.
Yeah,
The whole
yeah,
destruction and whatnot. Like, where's the horror?
there was none. Yeah, no horror elements.
The only thing that
Um,
I would say the only part of the movie that kind of reminded me of the other two movies is when Alex is at the dig. That's
mhm.
it. That's it.
Yeah, yeah, that
Mhm.
is it. That's it. And the CGI in this movie was very 2008. I'm not gonna say it was worse from Mummy Returns. I mean,
No, it's an
it was it,
improvement from that,
it wasn't great, but
but it's still an improvement from Scorpion King.
although if it came out 7 years later, was it that much of an improvement? Not really. Thinking of like Iron Man came out that same summer, and that
I
movie had
mean,
way better CGI.
yeah, it did. There's also he had more money too. Who knows?
More more money? Actually, I think this movie cost more than Iron Man. Let's look it up.
No.
This movie had a $145 million budget, Chris. I think Iron Man was
Wow.
140. So I think this movie actually costs more than the first Iron Man. So Mummy, Tomb of the Drag Emperor, $145 million budget. The
Mhm.
first Iron Man, 140. I called it.
Oh damn. Oh damn. And it still looks better than
Don't ever
Tomb of
judge
the
me, Chris.
Emperor.
I know shit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know numbers.
I know more than numbers, apparently.
Shut up. Anyway, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. Watch it if you want, but the first two are probably way better.
Apparently not if you're Roger Ebert. Rest in peace, but what the fuck were you thinking when you said that? What do they have to pay you for that kind of comment? The best in the series. Has he even seen the other series? Like, has he seen the other movies? Like,
That is
really?
like so opposite. Oh my God.
I need to know, I need to know a more expanded
What was the reasoning behind that caption? Like, come on.
well, that's what I'm saying. I need a more expanded review. So
Yeah.
I might look up his review after this and see what he I want to make sure he didn't pass away because like the whole Roger Ebert, like the company still exists and they still do reviews. He just obviously he passed away, but I just want to make sure he was still alive when he died in 2013. So
Oh, okay.
I think he was still active at this point. So that probably was actually him saying that review. Yeah, definitely not the best in the series. I mean,
Forget it.
unless, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what he was thinking, but
Yeah,
yeah,
it's like,
Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. I'm glad I watched it. Like I'm glad I can say I've seen it. I seen it, but
yeah,
uh
you completed the trilogy. You
this
leave
will
it
be
that,
going back into the bin to never be seen
collecting
again,
dust.
pretty much. I'm glad the DVD still worked after this long, I guess, because it's been barely used.
I had the first two mummies on VHS, and the third one was on DVD.
Hmm.
Yeah,
They didn't even have any good bonus features on here. It's like just
really
deleted scenes
nothing.
and commentary. That was it. There is a funny video that I watched before this, then Chris will put a link in the description of Brendan Fraser outside the ride at Universal Orlando's Mummy, like a month before the movie came out, and he was promoting the movie. So it's pretty cool.
All right, well, that's it for The Mummy, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. And watch it if you dare. Don't have your bar so high because it is way down low.
You might want to be at a bar when you watch it and just have some drinks.
Yeah. Yeah. But definitely, please watch the first two and stop there.
Well, yep, that's a wrap on the Mummy trilogy, and we'll be picking this up for one more movie next week with 2002's The Scorpion King, starring
The
some
Rock.
guy, some guy called The Rock Johnson, Dwayne, I think is his first name.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I want to thank everybody for tuning in once again. Make sure to hit the like, the subscribe, comment. What do you think of this movie? Do you think it was great? Do you remember seeing it in theaters? Did you not go see it in theaters? Did you just go see Dark Knight for a second or third time? Anyways, that's all we got for this week's crosscut episode. Chris, take it from here.
Cut print. Moving on.
All right, Chris, say something clever to end it.
Uh,
Yeah, well, Chris still owes me money, by the way, people. So get him the payment,
lies,
please.
lies, lies.